March 2, 2025. An online investigation group began an operation using a decoy profile, posing as a 14-year-old boy on a dating app. Not long after the account went live, a 34-year-old volleyball coach, Levi Garrett, allegedly made contact. At first, the conversation appeared normal. But everything changed the moment the decoy revealed their age. Instead of ending the interaction, the messages continued. According to the records, the tone quickly escalated. Explicit content was allegedly sent, and the conversation shifted towards something more serious, language that suggested a possible in-person meeting. Every message was documented. Every interaction was saved. This wasn't speculation. It was a structured operation designed to capture evidence. Months later, on August 13, 2025, the situation moved from online to real life. A content creator associated with the investigation traveled to Indianapolis, Indiana, to confront the man in person. The location: a volleyball training facility where he worked. Cameras were already recording as the confrontation began. The questions were direct. And within moments, the situation became tense. During the exchange, the man allegedly admitted on camera that he had been communicating with what he believed to be a minor. For many watching, that moment alone seemed decisive. An admission. On camera. But what happened next didn't follow expectations. Police officers from the Indianapolis Police Department arrived on scene. They listened to both sides. They assessed the situation, but despite the apparent admission, no arrest was made. Instead, the officers explained that they needed probable cause to proceed with immediate custody. And while that standard may have appeared to be met, law enforcement also has discretion, meaning, even when probable cause exists, an officer is not always required to make an arrest on the spot. But that decision changed everything, because instead of focusing on the allegation, the conversation shifted toward the evidence itself. The documentation had been gathered by private individuals, not law enforcement. And that raised concerns. Could the messages be verified? Were they complete? Could they be authenticated in court? These are real challenges in cases like this. But here's the key point. Evidence from private parties is not automatically invalid. In many situations, officers can review it, and then begin their own independent investigation. However, in this case, the officer declined to examine the material on scene. And that decision created immediate tension, because from the perspective of the individuals who brought the evidence forward, this wasn't just information. It was proof. As the conversation continued, frustration began to build. Questions turned sharper. Voices became more intense. And slowly, the focus began to drift away from the original allegation. Instead, it moved towards something else entirely. Property. The individuals were asked to leave the premises. The reason: trespassing. At that moment, the entire situation shifted. What started as an attempt to report a serious allegation was now being treated as a dispute over location and authority. And while that was happening, the man at the center of the accusations remained free to leave. For many observers, this was the turning point, because it raised a difficult and uncomfortable question. What happens when someone tries to report something serious, and the response doesn't match the urgency? As tensions continued, the individuals began informing others nearby. Parents, bystanders, anyone who would listen. They wanted the situation to be known. But law enforcement remained focused on maintaining order and enforcing property rules. Eventually, a case number was provided. But even then, there were still unresolved concerns. The evidence that had been collected, was it being taken seriously? Was it being processed? Or was it being overlooked? Later developments added even more complexity. According to follow-up claims, the evidence that had been offered on scene was not immediately entered into official records. and communication between investigators and those who gathered the information was not clearly established. But despite all of that, the case didn't disappear. Months passed, and then, December 2025, formal charges were filed. The allegation, attempting to distribute harmful material to a minor. Then, in February 2026, a guilty plea. The outcome included probation and strict legal restrictions, particularly involving contact with minors and online activity. So ultimately, the legal system did act. But the path to that result was anything but simple. And that's what makes this case so important. Because it reveals something deeper than just one incident. It shows how complex these situations can become when private investigations, public confrontations, and law enforcement procedures all collide at once. It also highlights the role of discretion. Because even when something appears clear, the response may not be immediate. And that gap between expectation and action can shape public perception in powerful ways. At the same time, it raises questions about approach. Because while confronting someone publicly may create attention, it can also complicate how evidence is handled later. And yet, without that persistence, would the outcome have been the same? That's a question without a simple answer. What is clear is that this situation became more than just an incident. It became a conversation about accountability, about process, and about how justice is pursued in a world where anyone can document, record, and publish. Because today, the line between citizen and investigator is no longer as clear as it once was. And when those roles overlap, the results can be unpredictable. In the end, this wasn't just about what happened that day. It was about everything that followed. The decisions made, the actions taken, and the questions that still remain. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't come out all at once. It unfolds, piece by piece, until eventually, there's nothing left to hide.